Hello, how are we doing today, everybody? I hope you are having a fantastic day. It is a Wednesday night here in the Action Lab, and we are getting popping off with a lot of big headlines in the NFC and AFC East. We're also going to be covering a lot of our fantasy football, keeping that coverage going. So you'll notice that Scotty is not in at the moment. He is going to be joining here shortly. He just has a few things he needs to attend to at his house, and he will be back in. It sounds like he might be just getting down some little ones. He's flying solo tonight with his kiddos, so we're going to give him a little bit of a break tonight. But how are you guys doing? Until he gets here, I need some company. So feel free to throw all of your thoughts in the chat, so that we are able to, have a little conversation. You keep me company, I'll keep you company. We'll have a good time, and we'll make it happen. So, hope you guys are having again, fantastic week. The week has been kind of blowing by really quickly. We're getting closer and closer to the NFL season here, so we can't wait to cover even more NFL. We know a big chunk of our fan base is all about the NFL, so we want to make sure we're giving you everything you need to know when it comes to just the division previews, and anything fantasy football related is all going to be on the table as well. So from that standpoint, we want to make sure you're good to go. If you have any questions for us, hit us up in the chat. If you have any hot takes, if you have anything you want to touch on when it comes to football, basketball, baseball, whatever, just hit us up. We always appreciate the love each and every time in the Action Lab. So, by the way, I want to give a big shout out. We had a follower that just hit us up a couple minutes ago. Fragilities, if you're here, thanks for the follow. Appreciate the love. We just we're starting a little bit later than we normally do, but appreciate the follow. We are actually, it didn't update on, we weren't live when it went, through. So we didn't need to update this follower goal up here to 1, because obviously that's a big deal. Appreciate that for sure. So We're actually halfway to our follower goal for the night. So if you're here and you're watching on Twitch, hit us up on that follower. We're almost to 50, and it's gonna mean a lot for us to get there. So, yeah, love it. Fragilities, appreciate it. Welcome to the Action Lab and the Lab Rat family. So, just how's your week going, guys? I mean, I want to, just kind of see how you guys are doing. I mean, while people are starting to trickle in, it's kind of nice to get to know you guys and how you guys are doing. So feel free to share all of your thoughts in the chat. It looks like Scotty might be slowly working his way into the Action Lab, along with all of our other lab rats that are watching tonight as well. So we'll just kind of hang tight here while he gets all set up, and we'll kind of get that rolling here shortly. But first of all, I want to get your guys' thoughts on what you guys think about two big divisions that we have coming up, and we're going to dive into these in depth here very, very soon. But AFC East and NFC East, two major divisions in NFL. And, I mean, I know we have a lot of Cowboys fans here. I know we have, a handful of we have a Philly fan as well that typically chimes in to the show. So this might be a big one for all of you guys who love the NFC East. If your team's not covered here in either of these divisions, AFC or NFC East, what team do you follow, and what division are you looking to cover? Because we covered last week the AFC West and NFC West, which we said the NFC West is one of the best, if not the best, division in football. All those teams are in the top echelon of the NFL when it comes to what they can potentially do this season. But we have a couple interesting ones here. I mean, the NFC East is definitely going to be one here with, obviously the Cowboys trying to make a run back into relevancy, because they haven't really... I mean, the injuries have been just crushing them. The Eagles trying to figure out their situation with, what they're going to get out of their quarterback play, Jalen Hurts, everything on that front. You got the Washington football team, who's, going through some quarterback battles here as well, trying to figure out where they're going to be winding up. And then, what did I miss? I got Eagles, Washington. Oh, the Giants. The Giants are another one where, Daniel Jones is another one coming up really quickly. People are starting to get pretty excited about him as well. So that's going to be something we'll dive into here once Scotty pops on. Also, the AFC East. AFC East is another one that, that division has flipped a little bit, right? So, towards the top of this one, we have, the Buffalo Bills have kind of gravitated towards just the top of this division, and they're actually looking really good right now. So we'll dive into what they can possibly do in the AFC in general. I mean, obviously, we cover the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's going to be one of the top teams in the AFC. But the Buffalo Bills have a lot to bring to the table and could challenge the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll find out if Scott has any insights on whether or not that's a doable thing. I think it is. He might think otherwise. Miami is also an interesting one here, coming off of a season where they were 10-6 last year. So they're looking to really turn things around as well. They have some interesting situations when it comes to their quarterback with Tua. They have just some pieces that they've added in the offseason, so that's going to be fun to look at. You got the New England Patriots, who are coming off a very, very light season, 7-9 record last year, where, they were just kind of out of sorts. I mean, Cam Newton was just kind of inconsistent. They lost a lot of players over there in New England, and they definitely didn't look like the New England that we're used to seeing with Tom Brady, because obviously he's winning Super Bowls in Tampa Bay right now. So that's another interesting storyline to see what they do here, because there's a quarterback battle, right? You got Mac Jones coming in to potentially come in and then dethrone Cam Newton if there's a little quarterback battle happening there. So that's going to be a fun one to keep an eye on. And then you got the lowly Jets. Unfortunately, the Jets are not expected to do a lot. They finished their season last year 2-14, and they have a big mountain to climb this year. They really need to get things rolling. They've, obviously drafted some big time players over the course of the offseason, and we're going to see how those end up panning out, because obviously, Zach Wilson, is in training camp, seems to have some good things happening here. So, but yeah, we'll find out here and kind of dive into all of these. But looks like Scott is in and ready to go, so we're gonna get him on and see if we could pull him in now. Give me 1 second, and we'll try to pull over Scotty. Bear with me here. By the way, I want to get your predictions, though. I want to see what you guys think about these two divisions. I know I've asked you a couple times to throw at your thoughts, but I'd be interested to see what you guys have to say. Who do you think is going to come out on top in these? I feel like it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, this is going to be a really fun year in football. I mean, we're getting past COVID a little bit, so we're going to have a little bit more to work with here. And yeah, I think it's going to be a lot better of a product this year than it was last year, with all the uncertainty and all the rescheduled games and everything else. By the way, while we're waiting for Scotty to come on into the Action Lab, we're going to I want to give you a heads up. We usually do our news rundown every single Wednesday, which honestly, guys, there's not that much going on right now. I was looking at some of the stories out there in the ESPN Twitterverse, everything, and there wasn't really much to cover. It was more of, there was like some boxing news that was kind of like average. I think they had a couple people that were, who was it? Maybe you guys help me with who's in that boxing match coming up. I believe that they released it today, and it was
Anderson Silva.
There's Scotty. All right.
Tito Ortiz.
Anderson Silva, Tito Ortiz. Let's get you in here, Scotty. Let's see. Pull you in. Bear with me, guys. We're just, trying to get this all situated here. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Scotty, there we go. Let me share my screen with you there, buddy. Boom.
How's it going?
Well, we're good. We're off and running in the lab today, man. We're off and running. So, yeah, man. How's getting the kiddos down?
Honestly, it wasn't terrible outside. I mean, the older two, when I say older two, they're 2 and 4, are good. They're down, and they were easy. The baby was fine, just not wanting to fall asleep. So it took me a little longer than I wanted to get him down and to fall asleep. But other than that, I think he's good now, and they were good. So sorry I'm late. Yeah, it's a whole world when you have to put 3 kiddos down by yourself, but it's all good.
Hey, better late than never, though. So, yeah, we are all good, man. I was just talking about how we're not going to be doing a news rundown tonight. We're going to be just getting into some NFL and having some fun with it. By the way, we had a follower already. Fragilities came in and gave us a little follow here.
Nice.
So we're halfway through. It didn't update on our follower goal, so I'll update that here in a bit. But I will say, we've had a follower in 3 straight shows, which has been absolutely incredible. So thank you to all the love we've been getting from everybody. So make sure you hit that follow button if you're here and you're watching. You want to, get a little bit more of this football, and we cover everything here. So whatever you're into, we'll make sure that we talk about whatever it is that is on your mind. So hit that follow button. Let's get to that 2 follower goal tonight. We're halfway there, and we're almost to 50. We're almost to 50. I can't wait to get there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do a celebration on stream. We'll do something. So
it'll get wild.
It'll get wild. So let's just dive in, Scotty. I already kind of previewed a little bit of just some general storylines going into the AFC and NFC East divisions, but we're gonna pop off here and see, dig a little deeper. Now that we got you in, we're gonna talk about these divisions, what we think are gonna happen, some predictions, what we see as the odds for these divisions as well. Now, do you have a preference on where we start with these, Scotty?
I do not.
Well, we have AFC East up, so we'll start up with AFC East.
Let's do it.
All right. So, as mentioned, we have some interesting storylines going on all through the AFC East. Now, let's just talk about, just right off the bat, odds for this division. The odds on this one are obviously heavily weighted towards the Buffalo Bills to win, and that is minus 150, I believe, is what I have here. Dolphins are second on this with plus 330. By the way, in case you're new to gambling and you don't really know some of these, what this minus 150 plus 330 means, that's pretty much what the odds are of them, and what, if you put down a certain amount of money, what you can get out of it. So, for instance, if minus 150 as the favorite, the Buffalo Bills, if I bet $100, or I need to bet $150 to win 100. So that's just, kind of balancing, everything when it comes to, making it a little bit tougher if you're kind of wanting to get some value, right? Miami Dolphins, on the other hand, are plus 330. That means you bet 100 and you win $330 if they win the division. So, same thing, New England Patriots, plus 360. Bet 100 to win 360. And then the Jets, plus 1,600. That's not going to happen. It's a long shot.
Some money down on those Jets.
Oh, that's value, but you're never going to win that bet. So don't even waste your money. But right now, projected win totals, I feel like, the Buffalo Bills right now, predictions are around 11 wins from what I've seen around, some various sources through the betting sphere. Everything out there is saying they're going to be around 11. To make the playoffs, minus 410. Odds to win Super Bowl, plus 1,200. So, overall, the probably the best value here is to win the AFC is plus 550. If you think that they have a chance to compete against the Kansas City Chiefs, then obviously Scotty doesn't. But
what if you don't think they have that chance?
But there's some interesting storylines going on in this division. So, let's just start out with the Bills here. So, a lot of, success last year. They finished 2020 record 13-3. They, were unbelievable over the course of the season. Bills Mafia has been ecstatic with the team and where they have come to. So, one of the most important position battles is in the guard position. So they have a couple guys in there. Buffalo shuffled his offensive line, last spring after signing Panthers tackle Darrell Williams as a one-year rental. Move pushed Cody Ford to now a third-year lineman inside and left guard. So they're shifting around some guys on their offensive line, trying to get something in place. But the biggest aspect of this is trying to protect Josh Allen, and that's no small task, right? The Buffalo Bills did a fine job last year. They were ranking 9th in sacks allowed, 10th overall according to Pro Football Focus. So, despite some inconsistency, in the middle of the line, they really actually did a pretty good job protecting him. So they'll just need to make sure they do that a little more. And they got a newcomer returning from injury. Emmanuel Sanders, wide receiver, so he's going to be coming in and giving them a little bit of a boost. And so, he's going to replace the departed John Brown. So, that's going to be kind of some of the areas we'll keep an eye on for this one. But, Scotty, as far as the Buffalo Bills go, any of these storylines kind of pop out to you? Anything really, kind of scream like man, this is a solid team? Or is this kind of like, are they going to have a fall off from that 13-3? 13-3 is hard to replicate in the league, you know?
Yeah, I think you had a team that was just on fire last year, and played a little bit above what I think their head a little bit, in my opinion. So obviously they were really hot. Josh Allen got paid this past week. Everyone heard about that. Tons and tons and tons of money. Second highest average per year contract ever in football, only behind Patrick Mahomes. Cheers.
Cheers.
Part of me, listen, I think they're a really, really good team. I think they're going to be one of the top teams in the AFC, and there's no doubt about that. Part of me thinks they're going to fall off a little bit this year. And I don't know if that's just a feeling in me. Maybe it's a hope. Maybe I'm just biased on it. Watching that AFC Championship game, they weren't ready for that moment. They didn't play that well offensively, especially in that game. Josh Allen didn't look quite like he was ready to be on that same level as a Mahomes. They brought a lot of their guys back, and why wouldn't you? You go 13-3 in your Buffalo, who hasn't had the success like this in a long, long time. I'd bring guys back too. You talked about, basically replacing John Brown with Emmanuel Sanders, but then they've kind of had a weird offseason in the sense that obviously Cole Beasley has been in the news a lot.
Yep.
Maybe not for what you want him to be in the news for. Obviously, he's not a believer in the vaccine for COVID, and has made that very, very evident on social media. And some guys on the team have they've gone back and forth through Twitter and stuff, talking about it, which you don't want to do that. You don't want to put out your issues. If you have issues between one another, you want to keep that in house. So it's kind of been a weird offseason in that sense. And is it going to be a little divided in the locker room? We'll see. Listen, I think like I said, they're going to be really, really good. I think, they have a lot of pieces. Josh Allen is, he was probably, I don't know where, did he finish second or third in the MVP vote last year? I know he was top 3 along with Rodgers and Mahomes. So they're really, really good. Their defense is really solid. It's not a ton of huge names that you've heard of all over the place, but they got some pieces on each level of the defense where they can definitely get into guys and make teams struggle. And the AFC East is obviously seen it turn into the guard. The Patriots didn't win the division for the first time in forever, since pre-Brady, which is forever ago. So now they have expectations. So we'll see what happens if they can live up to those. I think they should be the favorites in this division. They're the best team in this division. But I think with those expectations and maybe slightly overachieving last year, I think they're in for a little bit more difficult path this year than they had last year, going 13-3.
Where do you think they stand in the AFC if you were to rank them top teams in the AFC? Where would you slot them overall?
I mean, they're certainly somewhere in that 2 to 4 range for me. And those there's 3 teams I'd probably target there that are pretty right there. You got the Bills, I think, and then you got 2 North teams in Cleveland and Baltimore that I think are probably the 2 other teams, along with Kansas City, that a lot of people like the Titans a lot. I'm still not convinced on their defense. Julio Jones is a great piece, but they don't throw the ball a lot. They're still a run first team. So I'm not. We'll see. Julio's not really even practicing that much. They're resting him and see if he's not too beat up. So a lot of people like Tennessee, but I'd put Buffalo, Baltimore, and Cleveland in that next tier, right behind Kansas City as the 2 through 4. I haven't fully decided who I would rank officially in that order of those 3 teams, as I think it's pretty close there. I think each team has different strengths and weaknesses and things to offer, but they're pretty close on talent level and ability to make a run at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I really think that they have a lot of pieces there. I mean, obviously their defense was fairly good too. So, I mean, those are some things to keep an eye on when it comes to Obviously, their offense is fairly potent. They've been really to be able to find a rhythm on offense. Plus, they use they use their quarterback Josh Allen to get a lot of those run plays. He's a nice sized quarterback, and he can get some of those short down goal line carries that throw teams through a loop. So I think there's a lot of different areas of this team that kind of they're exciting to watch for sure. Now you have also Miami in this division. They are on the up and ups as well. They finished the 2020 season 10-6. So they definitely are finding more success than they've historically had. They have some important battles going into this camp here. They got obviously Tua's coming in, and he's going to be the guy as of right now. We don't know if there's going to be potential trades. We've heard his name thrown out there over the offseason with the whole Deshaun Watson side of things. So I don't know what's happening here, but running back is another one here that was important as far as getting somebody in there that can, just take over and be a solid running back. I mean, most NFL fans, can recall Miami's leading rusher in 2019 was Fitzmagic.
Mm-hmm.
How crazy is that? So
makes no sense. That don't make no sense.
Gaskin is slotted as Miami's main man in the backfield entering late July. Dolphins poured resources into improving receiving and blocking talent around Tua, but added former Rams runner Malcolm Brown to the backfield, lacking in a little bit of a star power of what they really want to have. If Gaskin, who 1,100-ish yards total over 2 years, truly has starting back gig wrapped up before the camp ends, then it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be backing him up and how quickly they're going to potentially have even more of a question on their hands if he's not able to maintain any consistency. So another one, Jalen Phillips, pass rusher. He's a guy returning from injury, so we're going to see how he comes back and if he's strong coming through. But Miami, they've definitely taken a solid, 2 spot in this division, and they've kind of held on to it over the course of the last year. Do you see that happening again this year? Obviously, we'll get into the Patriots here, are the only other team that we feel is going to compete in this division. But even at that point, I don't think the Patriots are still trying to work through their quarterback situation. Again, we'll touch on that in a second. But can they, stave off a New England team that might be challenging them for that second spot in this division?
They have the pieces. They're another team I'm not convinced watching them on paper. Like, listen, obviously a ton of it is all going to fall on what Tua are we getting this year. Tua came out and fully admitted that he didn't know the offense last year, which in my mind
it's concerning.
Is crazy. So for him to come out and say that and admit that they had to run a very, very condensed offense when he was in the game instead of Fitzpatrick being in the game, and they only got as close as they did last year because of Fitzpatrick coming in in that Raiders game at the end of the season. That was absolutely wild, bringing them back. Tua was a lot of just one read slant, middle of the field, couldn't throw it outside the numbers guy last year. So obviously they've added pieces like you talked about, Jalen Waddle in the first round.
Yep.
Obviously crazy fast, instantly one of the fastest players in the NFL, but like his partner in crime at Alabama the year before, and Henry Ruggs, who was kind of the same type of player. Ruggs didn't exactly blow up last year in with the Raiders like everyone thought he would. So we'll see what Waddle can do. I think Waddle has a little bit more ability as far as a route runner, but I think he's still going to take some development. He was injured a lot this past year at Alabama. Speaking of injuries, they did get Will Fuller, but that guy seems to be injured all the time. Honestly, in camp, their best wide receivers have been neither of those two players. So based off reports I read that I'm trying to draw a blank. Devontae Parker has been solid in camp, and then the other guy is actually a former Chief who's signed with the Dolphins a few years ago and then has been hurt the last like couple years. And I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he's been great in camp apparently. Anyway, they have pieces there. The running game's nothing spectacular. Their offensive line is not great. So I worry about their offense. Their defense, especially in the defensive backfield, is loaded. Obviously, there were reports about Xavier Howard, who might be, he's certainly a top 5 corner in the game right now. I think people would rank him at. And he was upset and wanted a new deal. They did reach an agreement, I think last week, on some bonuses and some different things to add some money to his contract. They got Byron Jones on the other side, so they're pretty loaded at corner with those two. That 1-2 might be the best in all of football on the back end. So we'll see as far as pass rush what they can get. They did take Jalen Phillips out of Miami, a guy we kind of liked quite a bit in the draft.
Loved it.
Yeah, and they have Emmanuel Ogbah, who's fine, and Kyle Van Noy is a nice piece. So they have some guys, and their defense is very solid. But is this a team that I think is upper echelon of the AFC at this point? I don't. I think they're more middle of the pack, honestly. Maybe slightly above middle of the pack.
Yeah, even with their record last year, coming in at the 10-6, I felt like, they were doing some good things, but I just felt like, man, like it doesn't feel like a 10-6 team. It didn't feel like it last year. I still don't feel like it has that kind of potency when it comes to what they can bring to this division. Do I think they're still kind of in the, they're definitely not the bottom feeders anymore. So that's always something nice to be excited about. I guess when you're in the division with the Jets, it's kind of easy to not be the bottom feeders in this division. So, the Miami Dolphins, again, they have some pieces that they can build on, from this year moving forward. So I think the biggest thing is what they're going to get from Tua. I think that's the biggest aspect of what you can gauge their success on this season. So if he turns out that he knows the playbook and he's able to bring that to this season and just feel comfortable with it, then yeah, I feel like, they could get back to this 10-win benchmark potentially, maybe even a little more. Who knows? But the Patriots will have something to say about that. Now, the Patriots in this division last season finished 7-9. Obviously, they were finding an identity. They lost Tom Brady. They replaced him with Cam Newton. It wasn't a great situation for them because obviously they're kind of not necessarily rebuilding, but they kind of are. They're just it's kind of, I don't even know what they're doing, but they ended up going out getting Mac Jones in the draft. So we do have a position battle here with the quarterbacks in the New England Patriots roster. So that's going to be a Mac Jones, Cam Newton. Now, obviously, we'll see. I haven't really heard too many reports on, Mac Jones really just coming in and just outshining Cam Newton completely. But I will say it's going to be fun to see how this unfolds over the course of a year because, you want to try to see about getting Mac Jones, maybe some playing time. He's going to get plenty of playing time in the preseason, right? So I don't know. We'll see what happens here. Doesn't mean the Alabama's rookie's performance and development in camp isn't worth monitoring daily, with, just a little bit of, tuning in and see what he can do. But I don't know if I see him playing a lot unless the season is really just lost. Then they'll throw him in there and they'll give him some playing time. But it's going to be interesting to see how he gets integrated in should that happen. Now, obviously, it's kind of, New England's still reeling about seeing their old quarterback, Tom Brady, literally old and figuratively old quarterback, win a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. So I'm sure that hits a little bit. But, don't discount some of their defensive additions / returns from injuries or whatever. Dante Hightower, he opted out of COVID last year. Kyle Van Noy, Dolphins, he's back in the linebacking core, joining them in the front seven. Matt Judon, David Gochucks, Henry Anderson. Some of those guys are really solid. How will Trent Brown return to his, form in New England? Will he be able to? So there's some interesting questions here on maybe some talent that they didn't have last year that could maybe push this team into that second spot and challenge Miami. So they obviously they need to get their quarterback situation figured out with Cam Newton. Obviously, I think he's going to be their go-to this season. But Scotty, what do you got here with the New England Patriots?
Obviously, when you start with Belichick as coach, you're not gonna rule out a team that has Belichick. Like they went, what'd they go 7-9 last year, I believe. Yeah, 7-9 with maybe the worst offense in the NFL, and other guys on their defensive side of the ball sitting out due to COVID reasons. So their skill positions players last year were by far and away the worst in the NFL. So they did go this offseason. They tried to address it. The one big weakness Belichick has always had is he's never been able to draft wide receivers. Any wide receiver he's ever had that's been worth a damn on New England through this whole run, they've had to pick up in free agency or trade or something like that. So they went out, they signed Nelson Aguilar off the Raiders, who's had a nice season last year with the Raiders, Kendrick Bourne, and then they went out and got 2 upper echelon tight ends and Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. These are nice pieces. They paid a lot of money to get all these guys, and they're fine. But I still don't think this offense is going to be very good. First of all, Hunter Henry, I worry about. He's already injured, and he's notorious
every season
for being hurt. He's already hurt in camp. He's out right now. Jonnu Smith's a nice piece, but like nothing dominant at the tight end position. And like Nelson Aguilar's a nice piece as well. But before his breakout year last year with the Raiders, when he was back in like Philadelphia, there were times where he was the number 3 or 4 wide receiver on that roster. So I still think offensively with Cam and his accuracy issues, this is going to be, first of all, they're not going to be a fun team to watch. The only game I'm going to want to watch New England play this year is, I don't know if it's Sunday night or Monday night that they have Tom and Tampa Bay coming back. It's a Sunday night game in week 4. So Tom Brady makes his triumphant return to Foxborough, week 4, Sunday night, against the Patriots and Belichick. That one I'll want to tune into, as well as the entire world, I would think, because that one will be interesting to watch and see. But otherwise, this team's not going to be that exciting. They're, of course, going to be really good defensively. The one question mark is Stephon Gilmore, their elite corner who got injured midway through the year last year after being the Defensive Player of the Year in 2019. He's upset right now. He wants to be paid. I think he's ranked 24th among corners in the league with his current salary coming in this year, and he's not happy about it. So I think he's been sitting out some of camp, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know what'll happen with that. I'm sure he'll end up playing, but I think he's only got 1 year left on his deal, so that might be a guy. Maybe Belichick likes to move guys, so if he's not happy and feel like they can't compete with him anyway, and they're going to lose him after this year, maybe they try and move him this season and get something for him. I don't know. So they'll probably be better than they should be because they have Belichick at coach, but they're not going to be exciting to watch. They're going to be heavy on the run like they were last year. I'm sure Cam will be running the ball a lot for 3-yard gains that are super exciting to watch. So not the most exciting team, but they'll be competitive and they'll probably be around 500.
I mean, again, they finished last season 7-9. They're projected 9 wins this season as far as their Vegas odds and FanDuel Sportsbook. So from that standpoint, they're not going to get much better, I don't think. It's going to be the same thing you kind of saw last year with them just trying to figure out how to get through the season. And I'm with you. I don't find them super exciting to watch. I will be tuning in for that game against Tampa Bay, but honestly, it's just, there's nothing really that draws me in. I mean, unless they bring in Mac Jones and Mac Jones start playing a little bit, maybe I'll keep an eye on them, and watch his progression as he gets into the lineup a little bit more, if that were to happen. But other than that, I don't really see myself really tuning in to watch too many New England Patriots games. You want to know what else I'm not going to be tuning in to see in this division? I bet you can. I'll give you one guess.
The Jets.
Jets. Now, they do. They have a little bit of something going here. Obviously, Zach Wilson. He's coming in as a nice young player. But keep in mind, they were excited about Sam Darnold too, and they jettisoned him as fast as they could. And it's that experiment ended quick. Sam Darnold was originally the next big thing in the NFL, and all of a sudden he gone. So as far as that goes, we'll see what kind of. I mean, they're really hyped about Zach Wilson and stuff, but there's a lot of up and coming aspects about this team that could be fun. But I'm not going to obviously watch a lot of it. But there's some things. A running back is a position that has been people have had an eye on in camp. They were cursed from their Frank Gore, Le'Veon Bell days, and right now they're kind of working on a couple of new additions. Tevin Coleman and rookie Michael Carter will be kind of battling out in the backfield for this team, seeing what they can carve out as far as who's going to get a little bit more of the some of that action in the backfield. Perhaps more importantly, offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur is going to be keeping an eye on them as well. Coleman's 2016 Falcons and 2019 49ers, he had a nice little run there. So, I feel like that's going to be a fun little matchup to watch in camp. As far as returning, they got Carl Lawson, their pass rusher. So that's going to be something to, keep an eye on. He's been pretty solid as well. So Jets, they don't have a lot of exciting aspects of what they are going to be shooting for this year. Their projected win total is only 6, which is a lot better than what they did last year with 2-14 records. So if they could even get 6 wins, I would say that's still a leap forward for them. Still ways away though. If Zach Wilson ends up panning out to be something big here, they might get a couple more wins each year moving forward, and he could, if he ends up being what they think he can be, man, they could be launching themselves and leapfrogging over the Patriots here soon. Because honestly, I liked him a lot better than I liked the Patriots quarterback that they just picked up in the draft, and that was Mac Jones. So we just talked about him. He's good. I like Zach Wilson a little bit better. We'll see what his ceiling could be. But what do you think here, Scotty, about the Jets?
Yeah, Zach Wilson eventually is going to be an exciting player. I think he's going to struggle this year. Reports in camp, I feel like as far as the rookie quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round this year in camp, I've heard a lot of positive things about Trey Lance and Justin Fields. Haven't heard a ton of positive things about Zach Wilson or Mac Jones. Not that they can't develop, and it's early. And who knows what's really happening in camp, and things are being overblown. But it's going to take time with Zach Wilson. I like what they got going on the left side of their offensive line. Mekhi Becton is just a beast of a man that they drafted in the first round last year, left tackle. They added the left side in the first round this year with Elijah Vera Tucker, guard that'll play left guard out of USC. So I like those two pieces. They added Corey Davis from Tennessee, a wide receiver. A weird story is that their second round pick from last year, who was somewhat okay at times when he played last year, and Denzel Mims, the wide receiver out of Baylor, is reportedly possibly on the trading block. On their depth chart, he's listed as second team, but even then, he didn't practice with the ones at all the other day in a drill where there were 6 wide receivers that did, and he wasn't one of them. So
it's weird.
I don't know if he's in the doghouse. Then he came out today and said he lost 20 pounds in the offseason due to food poisoning from some salmon or something.
I saw that report.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know how you lose 20 pounds from food poisoning. Like usually food poisoning, it's awful, terrible, but it doesn't last that long. Like it moves through your body and you move on. But I don't know what's going on there. Zach Wilson, the problem with Zach Wilson as well is there is no quarterback on the roster with any experience whatsoever. Usually with a rookie quarterback list, you'd like a vet behind him at least to kind of help him out and guide him. There's nothing there. They don't have a ton at running back like Tevin Coleman, LaMichael Perrine. We'll see Michael Carter, the rookie they took out of North Carolina, where he fits in, but I think he's not going to be there right off the bat. So, and defensively, you talked about Carl Lawson they added from Cincinnati. I love Carl Lawson a lot. I love Carl Lawson. Obviously, they have who's their D tackle that I'm drawing a blank on right now? That's just a beast. They drafted from Alabama like second overall a couple years ago. They have him and Marcus May is a nice safety, but honestly, their secondary is not great. Their linebacking core, they did draft Gerard Davis. We'll see what happens there. They do have CJ Mosley coming back after basically they signed him to this huge deal and he's missed like 2 years. So they signed him to this huge contract. He got hurt in their first game 2 years ago, and then last year he sat out, I believe, for COVID. So getting him back and being a leader on that defense will help. So they'll be improved, no doubt, which that's saying nothing when you have a team that won 2 games last year. But still a ways to go and not going to compete for anything of significance this year.
Yeah, so, and that's the biggest, if you're thinking about the Jets, they've been able to draft a lot of players, but the problem is it's not an environment that cultivates young players very well, right? I mean, quarterbacks, we saw that, again, I mentioned, like, with Sam Darnold. It's not exactly a place that lends itself to development and being patient. Obviously, New York's a big market where they want results now. And if you don't get those results, it can be cutthroat, right? And you mentioned it a little bit ago. They have nobody in that room, quarterback room, to kind of cultivate a nice young quarterback who has a lot of potential, which is terrifying. If I'm the New York Jets, I'm like, man, maybe you just got to get a veteran guy in there, just throw him a couple $100,000 for the season and just put him in the quarterback room there, because man, you got to turn things around. This team has been bad for a while, and it hasn't. They haven't gotten anywhere. They thought Sam Darnold was the ticket, and that hasn't been the case. So that's what I worry about. And the culture there is just, I just don't see a strong veteran culture that lends itself to turning things around and the attitude you want to do it with. So that's why, I want the Jets to be good. I want them to be more competitive in this division. But man, I just don't see how they do that. I don't know what
they'll do it eventually. Zach Wilson, I think, is going to be a dude eventually. He's not going to be maybe this year. He'll have flashes and he'll struggle. But eventually, I think Zach Wilson's going to be legit. The one thing we haven't mentioned that I feel awful that neither of us have mentioned is that maybe the biggest reason they'll improve this year is Adam Gase is not their coach. So
True.
Let's give it up for that.
Yeah.
And they hired Robert Saleh, the D coordinator from the 49ers,
Yep.
and I like him a lot. I think that might have been the best coaching hire this offseason. So I think at the coaching position, if nothing else, they have upgraded significantly. This seems like a guy in Robert Saleh that can, connect with the players really well. He's smart. He's not, he seems like he's like a player's coach, but he's also hard on them kind of guy, which is like, in my opinion, the perfect mix that you have. So we'll see what effect he has on the team, but not having Adam Gase equals at least 3 more wins by default for any head coach. So,
and you don't need
congratulations, Jets, on getting to 5 wins minimum this year.
You don't need to worry about his eyes going all over the place in press conferences and all, because those ojos locos, man. He's got just, man, that guy was all over the map. I couldn't tell if he was on drugs sometimes or what. Man, he was a strange dude. Where is he right now? Do we know? Is there an Adam Gase sighting somewhere?
I think he's bunkered in his basement or something. I don't know. I don't think he's doing anything in the National Football League. I just Googled him and I saw his eyes, and now I don't even want to do anything more.
You're gonna have nightmares tonight.
Wait, I'm wrong. Wrong. This is even better. I said he's not doing anything. No.
Oh, I can't wait.
Former Jets coach Adam Gase accepts job as offensive coordinator of local high school team. So let's give it up for Adam Gase. No. Gonna be a high school offensive coordinator for Lincoln High School in Ypsilanti, Michigan. So congratulations. Congratulations, Adam, on the great. I mean, he fell. We thought he was gonna fall hard, but no, he bounced right back, and he's back in the game, and he is gonna tear that
Lincoln High School
like the top division of Michigan football, but he is really gonna bring them to prominence.
There's a reason why Peyton Manning is a Hall of Famer. Peyton Manning made Adam Gase what he was as far as getting him a job. Hey, Adam Gase.
Although he vouched for Adam Gase.
Yeah,
it wasn't
I guess
just his play. He verbally vouched for Adam Gase on jobs, at least when he got the Miami gig.
Oh man, I can't believe Adam Gase is a high school coach at the moment, and it's
not head coach.
Oh, not head. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Offensive coordinator. So.
Yep.
The fall from grace, man. What a fall from grace.
What are you talking about? That's a nice rebound for him. It's a nice rebound.
Dude can't get a coaching job in high school. Man, this guy. Unreal. So that's where we're at with the AFC East. So, by the way, the chat has been non-existent. We need to get some chat rolling. So let's get some people in there. I want to know your thoughts on some of it, whether it's Adam Gase's creepy eyes that are going to give us nightmares, or what you think about these teams and who's going to be popping off in this division. Maybe we have it wrong. Maybe everyone's got it wrong. Maybe you got Miami coming in and swooping in and getting some wins. I want some hot takes. Let's see them.
I will. Now that I know where Adam Gase is, I think it's important that I provide a weekly update on this show of how Lincoln High School is performing.
We should do that.
Football season. I'm trying to Google right now to see, things about them. But once that football season gets going, I'm going to update you guys weekly on how they're looking, so we can know maybe this is the fall before the rise of Adam Gase coming back.
And I would love to know the offensive statistics of that team as well, given he's the offensive coordinator. So where's that located?
The town is Ypsilanti. It's like Ypsilant. I don't know where Ypsilanti is. It's in Michigan.
Michigan. Okay. Makes sense.
Yep.
He didn't even get a Texas coaching job or an Alabama or.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's from like Michigan or something.
Maybe that's where his family is. Maybe, I don't know. So that's where we're at. And AFC East wrap up is concluded. Well, feel free again to throw out your predictions on who you think is going to come out of this division, or what are you most excited to see from this division, I should say. Because I mean, there's rookie quarterbacks here. There's interesting dynamics when it comes to some of the rosters and who's going to be, fantasy football wise, we're going to get some of that here in a little bit. That's coming up here after we do our NFC East preview. So let's dive into the NFC East preview here. And that is all about the Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, and Washington football team. They still don't have a legit name. Are they sticking with that Washington football team? Are they going to just go with it?
I don't know. I thought not. I haven't looked at or heard much on it recently. I think it's pretty dumb. I don't know why they don't have a new name. Although, at least they didn't come up with a name like the Guardians, like the Cleveland Indians did. So, maybe it's best that they just go by Washington football team at this point. But then, I don't know. It works in soccer. It does not work in football for me.
The Indians changed to the Guardians, at the end.
Ians.
So what would it be here? Redskins. Would they be the trash bins?
I don't think they're gonna go with trash bins. I see what you're doing there with the
ins,
lettering
I don't know, man.
Maybe they can ask Miami if they can be the Dolphins.
They could just steal that away. Yeah, that could be.
Yeah. I don't know. The only reason you can't steal that away is because then people would watch Ace Ventura and be really, really confused. Like
probably, most likely, yeah. It wouldn't be ideal, but yeah. What I mean, if you're here, maybe you throw out some names you like for Washington that they need to just take on. I haven't even heard any rumors that they're looking for a new name recently. It's like they're just stuck with Washington football team. It's kind of boring, kind of lame. But NFC previews. Want to dive into a little bit of this, and with Dak coming back, odds to win the NFC East are currently at plus 130 for Dallas Cowboys. So they're thinking that Dak's going to kind of rebound here. He's going to be able to lead this team to a division win. Now, it's interesting, though, because this isn't necessarily a strong division overall. This has historically been like one of the weakest
worst division in football last year,
and you notice this by the win total count for this one. The Dallas Cowboys are the favorites to win this division at a projected win total of 9.5. That just shows you. The Eagles are 6.5 projected wins. The Giants are 7 projected wins, and the Washington football team are 8.5 projected wins. So this division isn't going to be great, guys. It's not going to be a division that's really going to knock your socks off. You're going to have a lot of just like, I mean, what were we talking about last year where all the teams were within like a game of each other and they all sucked? They were all like
4 like had legit like playoff aspirations still with like 2 weeks to go, even though all of them were like below 500. So it was a struggle last year. It was a war of attrition, and if they didn't get to play each other, I'm not sure they would have won games at all.
Gosh.
So, yeah, not a great division. We'll see if they can step up their game a little bit this year. Obviously, there's some pieces coming back, most notably in Dallas with Dak Prescott and some new, another new quarterback though in Washington, my boy.
Magics. Yeah. So, want to dive in here to, some of the storylines when it comes to the NFC East. Now, we can just lead off here. I want to kind of just, the biggest thing here is the Cowboys, right? So, Cowboys. Oh, about them boys, man. I mean, Stephen A hates on his Cowboys, right? But then you got all the ESPN. I mean, like, everyone's just like has their own take on the Cowboys, right? Skip's got his on Fox Sports. Everyone's got their little story.
You either love them or hate them. There's not a lot of in between.
Not really. So, key player for this is Dak Prescott, quarterback coming back from his injury. I mean, gruesome leg injury that set him back for a whole year. Now, obviously, he's a really potent quarterback. He's one of the more talented quarterbacks. Definitely the best quarterback in this division for sure. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how he comes back from that injury and how he's able to, make it through the course of a season if he's able to keep that healthy. So, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup nearly became a sixth team in NFL history to produce 1,000-yard receivers in a season from those guys. And, I mean, Andy Dalton's still there, I believe, in the backup role, if I'm not mistaken. So, no, he went to...
Andy's in Chicago.
Yeah, I went to Chicago because they were. I remember that because they were doing the whole social media.
Their odds went down when they acquired for like Super Bowl chances when they acquired Andy Dalton.
That's true. That's it. And so so that's what we're looking at here now. I think it's going to be interesting. One of the key battles here is at the corner position. Now, last year, Trayvon Diggs emerged as the Cowboys' most reliable corner, but with Chidobe
Awuzie
off to Cincinnati in free agency.
He's a buff, by the way.
Yeah. Local here, right? Anthony Brown is the next longest tenured cornerback on the roster. Might be a favorite to lock down the starting spot opposite Diggs, but so there's gonna be a little bit of a battle there with some of those camp notes when it comes to the defensive side of the football. But overall, I mean, I think this is Dallas Cowboys. It's their division to lose, in my opinion. Now, they finished 6-10 last year, with Dak Prescott's injury. So there were some, it wasn't a total shit season for the Dallas Cowboys. They finished 6-10, but I do anticipate that to climb. And obviously Vegas has that 3.5 more wins this year with Dak coming under the helm for the Cowboys.
Yeah, obviously when you look at offensively, here's a team that, was incredible offensively last year when Dak played in those first 5 games, because they had to be, because that defense was an abomination and just terrible. All the headlines are about Dak coming back, but when you look at it, they're also returning 3 huge pieces on that offensive line. Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, Lael Collins, all missed all, if not most, of last season with injuries. They're all going to be back. I mean, that's a dominant trio. Combined, they missed 36 games last year out of the 48. So getting those guys back, and if they're back to who they are, that's going to be monumental for not only Dak in the passing game, but Zeke in the running game. Zeke has to figure out, he fumbled the ball so many times last year. It drove me nuts to watch. He's got to figure out that fumbling issue, but otherwise, I mean, you look at their wide receiving core, the top 3 at wide receiver, probably 1 through 3 the best in all of football when you're talking about Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. All 3 are studs on the outside. They got 2 nice pieces at tight end, so they should be able to get the offense going. What I will say with Dak is, well, one, we got this arm thing that's going on, and now they just reported that he's going to get a second MRI, although that was planned, and he's thrown the last couple days a little bit, and he has no soreness. Hopefully he's ready to go. He needs to step up in big games, though. Dak has been a guy the last couple seasons that has absolutely obliterated bad teams and not won against good teams.
Yep.
So we need to see a Dak that plays the same way against good teams that he does against those lesser teams. Defensively, they're work in progress. Listen, they should be better than last year. They added Micah Parsons in the first round, the first defensive player. Is that right? No, I think actually second defensive player taken in the draft after who Denver took with Pat Surtain. So he's been, apparently in camp, he's been dominating. Obviously they have a nice piece, and Tank Lawrence on defensive end, and then Randy Gregory's had a great camp actually, and finally feels like he's got his head on his shoulders to go along with that linebacker. You got Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch. Vander Esch was pretty much out all last year, I believe. Jalen Smith struggled last year, so hopefully he has a bounce back year. But they actually added a nice piece in Keanu Neal, who played safety in Atlanta, but got injured quite a bit. He's moving to linebacker here, so he's going to be more of a coverage linebacker. And they averaged Jabril Cox from LSU also in the draft, who's a coverage linebacker, where they definitely struggled last year. So you talked about the defensive backfield a little bit with Diggs. They did draft 2 corners early on in the draft, in Kelvin Joseph and Nahshon Wright. Kelvin might battle for being the starter opposite of Trayvon Diggs. Their secondary is going to be a work in progress, though. Trayvon Diggs was a really nice piece, but he still has to develop a little more, and he doesn't have the elite speed that I think can make him a shutdown corner ever. We'll see what this Kelvin Joseph and Nahshon Wright can do. Their safeties are not a strength by any means. They actually just signed Malik Hooker, the former Pro Bowler with the Colts, who just got to be so injury prone and wasn't on a team. And they signed him, but I still don't think he's practicing for him yet. So Listen, the Cowboys are going to be the most exciting team by far in this division. They certainly have the best offense, and when you look at if Dak's healthy, the quarterback separation between the other three and Dak in this division is maybe larger than any other division in football. Like, there's just no one else on these other three teams are way behind in that respect and at the skill positions. So, it's going to be the age-old question. Does Dallas's offense, is that going to be able to beat some of these teams that might be better defensively, especially like a Washington team? So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for the Cowboys to get these pieces back and see what happens. And we'll see them right off the jump because they get to start on Thursday night, the opener in Tampa Bay against the defending champs.
That'll be a fun one. Can't wait for that game. And, as far as this division goes, I want to talk about the Giants as well. The Giants coming in here, 6-10 record coming out of 2020. So obviously they're kind of in the same position. Same exact record as the Cowboys with how they finished. So, they have some interesting pieces there with Daniel Jones entering a crucial third season. Protecting the quarterback is going to be essential, which is why the right tackle situation in their camp right now is kind of the one that everyone's keeping their eye on. So with last year's starter at the position, Cameron Fleming, departing via free agency, the right tackle job could come down to a competition between Matt Pert and Nate Solder, Nate Solder opted out of the season for COVID-related reasons last year, but he was replaced last season by Andrew Thomas, the 2020 first-round pick. He hasn't played right tackle. The 33-year-old hasn't played right tackle since his rookie year, but that they're gonna try to keep Daniel Jones up on his feet, and that's kind of be something they're really wanting to do. Obviously, coming back from injury, the biggest thing that we're gonna be watching closely is Saquon Barkley. He is obviously their dynamic running back that has taken the league by storm and is just unbelievable. But Barkley's impending return from a torn ACL will be the most anticipated sight for any kind of Giant fan that is excited about this season, right? I mean, you want to see how he comes back rehabbing. I've heard his rehab has gone insanely well, so hopefully he's coming back. But entering year 4, Barkley still aims to build on his extraordinary debut season when he became just the third rookie in NFL history to surpass 2,000 scrimmage yards. If that version of Barkley shows up and he can stay healthy in 2021, that could change absolutely everything for this team. So, depending on how that works out, that's also a big reason why they're looking at the offensive line pretty closely here. Obviously, on the outside of that offensive line, you have guys like Kenny Golladay, who signed a 4-year, $72 million deal in March. True number 1 wide receiver here. Makes big plays over the top, paired with Darius Slayton on the Giants. Feature strong pair of outside receivers. So there's a lot to like here. If they can get things rolling and Daniel Jones can keep progressing as a quarterback in New York. But those are just some of the players that we're going to be keeping our eye on. Scotty, is there anybody that I missed out on that you are excited to see here?
No, you touched on a lot. In the slot, they could have a wide receiver. They still got Sterling Shepard, who's been too injury prone, but pretty solid. They added John Ross. If you remember John Ross, when drafted in the Bengals, had the fastest 40 time in the history of the combine. So we'll see what they can do with them. And then they added in the first round Kadarius Toney, the small, quick wide receiver out of the University of Florida. So they got pieces there. Daniel Jones has to take advantage of him. Now, I still don't trust this offensive line that much. I don't believe in it. Having Saquon back, if he's healthy and ready to go, is going to help Daniel a lot, but that offensive line is still bad. They didn't address it a ton in the offseason, really. They're really going with who they had last year, and they gave up the second most sacks in the league last year. So I don't love their offensive line. So I don't believe in this offense. I really don't believe in Daniel Jones. He's just not the guy for me. He's had some opportunities. It hasn't really worked out. Defensively, this team overachieved defensively, in my opinion, on last year. Like, the talent didn't match the results. they don't have a ton of pass rushing, so it's super weird that they were able to do what they did. They did draft Azeez Ojulari, the defensive end out of Georgia, but he's pretty raw and a little undersized in my opinion, so he's gonna have to bulk up a little bit. They added Logan Ryan in the backfield at safety, but he's kind of past his prime. I don't know. I don't think this team is going to compete for the NFC East title. I think best case scenario, really, I see is third place for them. I think they're probably that's where I would pick them to be. I just think that roster, when you don't have a quarterback, you're adding all these playmakers, which is fine, but your offensive line is weak and your quarterback position is weak. And their offense kind of resembles to me a little bit of Denver's, where they have some playmakers and they have those pieces, but they don't have the line or the quarterback to follow through on that, and they're going to struggle because of it.
All right, here's a question for you. Where do you see Daniel Jones's progression as a quarterback in 3 years from now? What is Daniel Jones?
Daniel Jones in 3 years in my opinion, won't be a starting quarterback. He'll be a backup in the league.
Okay.
I just don't think he has the if. He's not super exciting. He's faster than you actually realize, but he doesn't use that to his advantage as much as he probably should. Although he's not nimble, he's just straight line speed pretty fast. We saw that in that, of course, infamous play on that Monday Night Football game where he had a wide open run and he was booking it down the field for a touchdown, and he tripped over his own feet and then got tackled.
Love that play.
That's kind of the epitome of Daniel Jones. He flashes these things and you're like, yes, Daniel Jones is figuring it out, and then he just trips over his feet and you're like, he's just not that guy. I thought he kind of started off pretty solid and he was a little more aggressive. I feel like he needs to go back to being a little more aggressive. Yes, you might have some turnovers, but last year he was just kind of boring. He didn't really push the ball down the field, didn't make a lot of plays, and they just kind of had to rely on their defense and hope that if they got to 20 points, that was going to be good enough. And I don't think that's a formula in today's football to win. So 3 years from now, Daniel Jones is not on the Giants and he's a backup quarterback somewhere else.
Mayday popping in just in time to talk some Eagles football here. We haven't touched on the Eagles yet. By the way,
bad timing.
Welcome in, Mayday. Appreciate you joining us. I feel like shit. Just got my second shot. Hey, man. Hope you feel better. At least, you got it out of the way, right? It's done. All you got to do is recover from it. But you can sit and relax and watch the show, talk some shit to Scotty, because you've been waiting for this. I haven't heard any DeChambeau stuff in a while, so hopefully we can get some of that out there too. But we have
DeChambeau. Made a fool of himself before the Olympics.
But literally, you got here just in time because we are talking Philadelphia Eagles up next. Literally, you got here perfect timing. Philadelphia Eagles finished 2020 with a 4-11-1 record. Not great. But right now, they are projected to win 6.5 games based off of fantasy sportsbook with FanDuel. So they are going to be a little bit better here. And as far as winning the NFC East, plus 470. So they are actually the worst odds of any team to win this division as we sit today. They're obviously behind the Giants, Washington, and Dallas in this division. So, given the NFC East, this is going to be an interesting one with Jalen Hurts and what that really is, right? What he can bring. Mayday, the millions watching around the world have been waiting for Mayday to talk shit to Scotty. We have been waiting. The millions and millions. Bring out your old school rock from WWE. Maybe we could do that. Yeah, so as far as this goes, key returning player, Devontae Smith, wide receiver. All eyes will be on Smith this summer as a franchise hopes the rookie can, reverse its fortunes at the position, right? So that's going to be a big one to keep an eye on as far as the wide receiver depth chart. He joins 2020 first rounder Jalen Reagor on wide receiver depth chart that will need to be sorted out a little bit in camp. So Gold Glover, welcome in, my friend. It was great talking to you last time. Glad you could join us tonight. For some reason, I thought you had a stream tonight. If I missed it,
He did. I think his is earlier. He mentioned that his.
yeah,
is
it's a little earlier. So we're doing good though, man. How you doing? We're talking a little NFC East right now, getting into some fantasy football running backs here next. Mayday in chat. Let's get ready to say Chiefs suck.
Why do you do this before I have to talk about your Eagles?
Yeah, you're teeing him up here.
Damn. Man, like, I thought once you joined the chat, I'm like, maybe I should back off on what I was gonna say about the Eagles. Maybe I should lighten it up a little. But then you're just throwing these haymakers towards me right off the bat, and I don't know if I can hold back on this garbage roster.
Gold Glover, yep, just actually finished. Right on, man. Yeah, by the way, I shot you a follow. I'm gonna catch your next stream. I believe I think you said you go live tomorrow night, so I'm gonna try to catch and tune into that as well. So excited for that. But yeah, so let us know, guys, your thoughts on the NFC East and what you guys think will be kind of playing out here. But little bit of an important battle here in the Philadelphia Eagles training camp is left tackle. Left tackle is kind of one of those where they're trying to sort through whether or not Andre Dillard, Jordan Mailata will go toe-to-toe pretty much for this position here. Dillard, a first-round draft pick in 2019, was poised to be the heir apparent to longtime Eagles left tackle Jason Peters entering 2020. But, based off of the missing the entire season with a bicep tear, the injuries have kind of caught up. So now they're trying to figure out how that's going to look going into training camp this year. Obviously, they have Devontae Smith at wide receiver, which, again, that's going to be really exciting to see. With an undefined depth chart behind running back Miles Sanders, the Eagles will have a healthy competition during camp. They have veterans Kerryon Johnson, Jordan Howard are brought in to compete. And so, we'll see what ends up happening here. But, Scotty, you were going to say, it sounded like you were going to say something nice about the Eagles and where they're...
That's what you interpreted?
Maybe. I don't know. You might have said they might have some exciting things going. But I could be wrong.
Listen, Mayday was here during our NFL draft coverage. I remember him being super hyped about getting Devontae Smith in that first round. And, of course, Devontae Smith's already hurt. So just another added to the list of Philadelphia Eagle players banged up. And hopefully he won't be out too long. Hopefully he might even be ready to go by the regular season. But missing this much time in camp as a rookie at wide receiver is only going to set him back this year. And Jalen Reagor obviously hasn't been the guy they thought he was going to be when they drafted him in I believe the first round the year before. So Jalen Hurts at quarterback, don't like it at all. I don't see an upside with Jalen as a thrower. I just don't think he'll ever get there as a thrower. And yeah, he's a good athlete, and yeah, he'll get you runs, and he'll make some plays here and there, but as a passer, I just don't ever see him being consistent enough and good enough to be a real playmaker there. I like Miles Sanders at running back. I think that's a nice piece. The offensive line, I think Andre Dillard's a little beat up right now, if I'm not mistaken. They still got Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey, who they reached an agreement with for maybe 1 or 2 more years, I think. So they have some Mayday, fucking Jefferson. Yeah. I think you're meaning that's who they should have drafted instead of Jalen Reagor last year. That would have been a nice piece. Justin Jefferson would look real good next to Devontae Smith.
He would look incredible.
Instead, they have Jalen Reagor. Defensively, listen, the D line still has Fletcher Cox. Brandon Graham is still a nice piece. Barnett on the right defensive end's not all right. And they have Darius Slay, who they last year as a free agent from Detroit. But man, do they like right now on their depth chart? Steven Nelson, who they just signed recently, I believe, is their starting right cornerback. Steven Nelson a few years ago was a Kansas City Chiefs, so I'm pretty familiar with him. I'm not sure that guy knows how to turn around. He is. I've never seen a corner that could be in the best position ever next to the wide receiver, but it's something maybe in his neck. Like he just doesn't have the capability to move his neck and turn his head around. And he gave up so many large plays. And then he left, went to Pittsburgh, and he had a nice year one in Pittsburgh. So he was talking a ton of trash on Kansas City fans. And then he had a garbage year last year in Pittsburgh. He reverted to who he is, he's just not a guy. Like he can't turn around. He can't see man and ball. Like it does you no good to be glued on a guy if you don't know where the ball's coming or when it's coming, and they still make a play on it. So Steven Nelson is a concern as a starter. That secondary concerns me outside of Darius Slay a lot, along with Jalen Hurts not being a guy that excites me, and the wide receiver core is young and inexperienced, even though it's talented. So I'm not expecting big things from Philadelphia this year. I think they finish, likely at maybe they can compete with the Giants to battle it out for third in the East, but I don't see anything a lot higher than that. Mayday even admits overpaid Slay. Yeah. Listen, when you add players in free agency, you're always going to overpay them, and you're probably not going to get them at their peak doing that. But Slay still, if you don't have Slay on your roster right now, that secondary is the worst in football. So, and still might be with Slay. Like it's bad. So they got to figure out something there. But they're gonna have a nice pick early in the first round next year to maybe address the secondary. So there you go, Mayday.
Gold Glover, do you guys have a Discord? We do have a Discord. The problem is we're not like we're still new growing our Discord, so it's a work in progress. But we are on Discord, Action Lab. So feel free to take a search on there. Shoot us a friend invite on there, and then chat through. Talk some sports on the Discord as well. So yeah, man. By the way, Gold Glover, saw some of your stream. I actually watched some of your VODs and love what you guys are doing, man. Those graphics that you have on your stream are incredible, man. I need to maybe pick your brain on how you do some of those, man. We need to spice things up over here a little bit. So, no, man, love your stream. Love checking it out. So we'll keep tabs on it a little bit more. As we start seeing some of you going live here, like in the next couple days. So yeah, love it. By the way, we have one more team to cover, and then we're going to get into all of our fantasy running back rankings, tier lists, strategies on how to, just approach your draft, right? We want to make sure you guys have one of the best drafts you've ever had going into this season. So stick around. We're going to cover just a little bit more camp stuff on the Washington football team, and then we are going to move on to our running back draft lists and what to expect with some of that stuff. So keep staying tuned. If you're here, hit that follow button. We appreciate all of the love. Join those lab rats who already followed. We're one away from our goal tonight, guys. We already got one. We just need one more to get to that. We're almost to 50 followers, and we want to get there. And we can't wait for a big celebration when we get there. It's going to be a blast. So make sure you hit that follow button if you're here and enjoying the content. But we have one more team to cover here in this division, and we have the Washington football team. Now, they are the second projected team here to potentially come away with this division. They are plus 260 in the odds, so bet 100 to win 260 is how that works. So make sure that if you think that they have a good shot to win this division, obviously put a bet on it, right? Washington. The Washington thanking Philly team. Trying to decipher that one.
The Washington thanking Philly team. They're probably thanking Philly for being trash.
Oh.
Oh, that's the team name. Okay. Washington Reds. I've heard Red Tails is
Red Tails, yeah.
Washington Red Tails, which was reference to some I think plain or pilot or something that had to do with one of the early wars. Like, I don't know if it was like World War, or I'm not too great at all that stuff, but that's something I've heard. But anyway,
We're not here for history lessons, guys.
no, I'm not good at that.
But they are projected plus 260. Obviously, Mayday is going to be putting in his plus 470 for them to win the division. I mean, that's a nice little payout. But is it going to happen? It's a little bit of a long shot there. You're going to get better odds to win the NFC or Super Bowl plus Super Bowl's plus 7,500. So there's that. The Washington dumpster fires. That was close to what I said earlier. The Washington trash bins, because the Indians and Guardians. So they Redskins trash bins. I mean, they kind of fit, right? I guess those kind of work. But Mayday, you're almost on the right track there. But going into this one, they're the second favorite to come out of this division. They are projected. Let's see, where are we at? 8.5 wins based off of Vegas. So that's a little bit of a nice little record there. It's not, again,
perfectly average.
Perfectly average, right? They finished 7-9 last year. So keep in mind, again, like we said when we first started talking about this division isn't going to be great from top to bottom. It's not going to be an exciting, just out of this world division. It's not. But your boy Fitzmagic will be competing. Mm-hmm. That's the quarterback battle we'll be keeping an eye on in camp here. So Tyler Heineke, Kyle Allen are also vying for the starting job. So I don't.
Fitzmagic's got it.
He's got it for sure. Coach Ron Rivera said he, made a mistake last year in his approach with the team's quarterback competition. Even like just eventually giving Dwayne Haskins a job, only to bench him. That was a fun storyline last year. That Dwayne Haskins thing was just, man, what was that? That was
he got us talking about strip clubs all the time. Him and James Harden.
It
seemed like we were talking about strip clubs every show.
Now, and look at where we're at now. We're talking about it again. It just we missed the topic, right? So we'll see what ends up happening with this quarterback carousel as far as what ends up coming out of camp. But we fully expect Fitzpatrick to come out and win this thing outright. So other newcomer / returning from injury radar, you got Curtis Samuel, wide receiver, provides much needed number 2 opposite of Terry McLaurin. So obviously Terry McLaurin has been a catalyst from that offensive running, just an amazing offense there with what he can do and stretching the field. So that's another thing we'll keep an eye on as well. But just real quick, Scotty, I know we're getting up. We want to get into these NFL running back side of things, but what do you think about Washington and how their chances are to compete against Dallas and maybe Philadelphia for the top of this division?
I actually think it's really good. Like, I think Washington, listen, they have the best defense, bar none, in this division, and one of the best in football. Chase Young is, of course, an absolute monster at the defensive end position. They got Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat. That D-line is probably, I would put those 4 guys against any other D-line in the league. That's a dominant defensive line right there, especially getting after the quarterback. The secondary is not quite as great, but you got Landon Collins, William Jackson, Kendall Fuller. They added Jamit, I don't even know how to say his name, Davis out of Kentucky at linebacker spot. So this defense carried him last year and should do what they did last year. And they won all the games last year with an offense and maybe the worst quarterback play in all of football. Like, listen, no disrespect to Alex Smith. It's huge props for coming back and doing what he did. And obviously he was with the Chiefs for a long time and great human being, and at times was a solid quarterback, but he was not it last year. Like, he was bad. He was bad. Let's just put it that way. The only thing he was good at was not making mistakes. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is actually going to be a huge upgrade for them at the QB spot. I think when you look at that 8.5 win total, that's one of my favorite bets right here is Washington over 8.5. I think You add Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin and as those weapons at wide receiver. They got Logan Thomas, who I like at tight end. Antonio Gibson at running backs, a nice piece and pretty solid running back. Not spectacular, but pretty good. So I like Washington this year. I think they're going to give Dallas a lot of fits, and I think that's going to be a battle down to the end on who takes that division between those two teams.
So that's your bet right there. If you guys are looking for some value, this is where you're going to find it, right? So Washington football team currently plus 260. So you throw $100 on that, you're finishing out the season with $260 in your pocket if they end up winning the NFC East.
And I like even more than that. Well, if you want a bet that's going to win, I think for sure is over 8.5 wins.
Over 8.5, because that's, I think, where they're slotted currently. Yep, yeah. 8.5 wins. Yep. So, hey, keep that. If you're into gambling and betting, winning some money there, over 8.5 looks really, really good. So, hey, take it to the pay window, the end of the season, and you'll be thanking us.
I mean, they get to play the Eagles twice. That's 2 wins already.
Oh, more shots fired. All right. I see. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our NFC East. Let us know who you guys love to come out of this. What storylines you like to see. Obviously, we talked about the Giants storylines with Daniel Jones and everything else with that. The Dak Prescott stuff. So hit us up in the chat. Let us know. We'd love to see all of the takes. Everything top to bottom. So let's dive in. We got some running back stuff to get to, Scotty. Let's do it. So last week we covered quarterbacks, and this week we want to cover everything and anything when it comes to running backs and drafting your fantasy football team. So as you'll see on our screen, we'll have a little running back rankings scrolling through the bottom, but we're going to touch on a little bit of everything here. When it comes to not only just, who we like, but also strategies of when you should be taking a running back and when you should, maybe get some more value instead of going to, just drafting running backs right off the bat. I've historically loved drafting running backs with my first 2 or 3 picks because running backs have been tough to come by. So if you're able to lock in a lot of value from running backs and you can get 3 or 4 really good starters at running back for your fantasy football team, that's given me some success in the past. But the big question is, are we still going with that method of valuing running backs right off the bat? We're going to tell you here very, very soon. So keep in mind here, we might touch on a couple different, the fantasy football. There's PPR, there's standard scoring. So keep in mind, based off of your league, the scoring might be a little different. So make sure if you're a PPR league, maybe you value like Alvin Kamara over maybe another guy that maybe doesn't get a lot of receptions. Those types of players. So we're going to talk a lot more on the standard side, but we are going to tell you maybe some of those guys that may fit a little bit better to a PPR as opposed to maybe not necessarily a standard league, right? So we'll kind of go into some of that as well. But let's dive in, Scotty, here on this, and let me pull up some of my notes here on drafting running backs. Now, we talked last show about quarterbacks, all right, well, maybe you don't need to take a quarterback in the first 2 or 3 rounds because it's not going to be overall the value you're going to want. So you can get good value later on, but you want to prioritize position players like wide receivers and running backs. Given that, Scotty, overall strategy here, what is your take on running backs in the first round, second round? Where are you targeting guys? Obviously, we have some top-tiered running backs, and I have in my tier 1, you have Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, and Derrick Henry, in my opinion. Those are guys that could potentially be in that little radar of tier 1. What are you doing in your first round with your running back selections?
Yeah, So I'll be honest. There's this method of going running back in the top 2 rounds has been around for a long time, and I loved it for a stretch. And the last few years, I've kind of moved away from it, and I'll tell you why. I went with wide receivers because one, the top wide receivers, in my opinion, these past few years have been more consistent. You can rely on if I'm drafting that guy, I know he's gonna be. If I take him as the second wide receiver taken in the draft, I'm fairly confident he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy football. And that backs up more than running backs, especially running backs are also more injury prone. You look at obviously Christian McCaffrey last year, probably was in most leagues the number 1 pick overall. And then he only played in like 3 games last year. So it's a little more risky. Saying that, now more than ever, the running back position is just more shallow and more shallow. There's not a lot of certainty as far as guys at the running back position you can rely on. And at the wide receiver position, it's so deep. It's becoming more and more deep every year as teams move to the passing game. So locking up guys in these first couple rounds at running back position, I think is actually going to be pretty important this year. Because once you hit certainly post 20 the top 20 running backs, then you're kind of just taking wild cards at that point and hoping. And if you're in a 12-team league, guess what? You're starting 2 running backs, that's 24 guys, and that doesn't even include if you have a flex position. So some of these teams are going to have flyers at running back, and you don't want to be one of those teams. So I think that running back is super important to address early in the first few rounds. Now, obviously, draft position, where you're at in that draft, is it PPR, is it standard, are all going to play roles in that, and what's the right value at that moment. But I mean, I fully expect in most leagues the first 5 or 6 picks in most leagues are probably going to be at the running back position.
Yeah, and running backs too. I mean, finding the workhorse running backs there's not that many. They've kind of faded, man. There hasn't been as many, 1, 2, 3 down running backs, first, second, third down running backs that are consistently in there. And if there are, they're not exactly staying healthy all the way through, right? They're not. I mean, we've seen injuries to a lot of those, so you got to be careful with some of those. Now, with that being said, obviously PPR and just in general, running backs that catch the ball have seen a uptick and have had more production. You see that with Alvin Kamara. You see that with Christian McCaffrey, where they add value in the passing game that gets you a ton of points as well as a receiver. So you got to keep an eye on some of those players. So from that standpoint, I feel like you really got to be you really got to prioritize how you're going about with where you're at selecting those guys. A few years ago, and this has kind of been, I've been seeing this pop up quite a bit, but there's the 0 running back strategy, and that became popular for a little bit, where you weren't taking running backs at all. You're just going strictly for
loading up with elite players at the other positions.
Yeah, exactly, and that's I've never gone that route. It's a little risky for me because I've always prioritized I've always prioritized like running game and running backs because you can't find those as frequently later on. So it's just tough. So with that being said, I have a couple tiers here that I wanted to just kind of look over and kind of give you an idea of maybe some of those top guys that tier wise we'll break it down for you. Obviously, Derrick Henry is a monster. I don't know if he's going to continue to... I mean, Mr. Stiff Arm is just unbelievable with what he can get yards after contact, right? He just is a workhorse. He's obviously in that tier 1. Christian McCaffrey has had some injuries. He's in tier 1, but he does everything. He's like a Swiss Army knife back there. He can catch the ball. He can just run out of the backfield. He literally does everything. And Dalvin Cook for the Vikings is, up there as well when it comes to that tier 1, being able to be kind of a workhorse in a sense for Minnesota, who likes to run the ball as well. Once you get into tier 2, I feel like that's where you're starting to get into the, Saquon Barkley, taking a flyer on him on if he can come back, because if he can, he's going to be very dynamic. Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara. Ezekiel Elliott needs to work out his fumble issues, because that really crushed fantasy owners over the course of the last season. But I have him in tier 2 here along with the Cowboys, because I think that offense is going to be a lot better with Dak running the show. Aaron Jones with the Packers. Then you get into some of these others like Jonathan Taylor with the Colts, Antonio Gibson with Washington. So a majority of this group will be drafted in the first round, first or second round of most drafts. That's what we're seeing in some of the trends when it comes to some of these. But there are obviously differences between standard and PPR leagues. PPR, Barkley and Kamara would vault to the top tier. If I was drafting in a PPR league, with Henry maybe kind of dropping down to a tier 2 if you're in more of a PPR league there. So obviously think that through. Again, we've said that a couple times already. But you can't go any wrong with any of these guys as your running back 1. So anyone tier 1, tier 2 that I just mentioned, they're pretty safe to kind of take a flyer on if you need a running back or you want to take a running back to go hand in hand with a wide receiver. Again, we said stay away from quarterbacks in the first 2 or 3 rounds. All figure to get a majority of their team's carries, and all have track records of success from what we've seen. Taylor and Gibson have only played 1 season, but they both have higher ceilings than they showed last year when they rushed for 11 touchdowns apiece. So there's those guys that, fall into that category. Order is kind of up to debate, but I mean, again, many will opt for McCaffrey first, which is fine, but we like the steadiness of the two-time defending rushing champ in standard leagues when it comes to some of these other, value props from some of these other guys in this tier. So, Scotty, any name pop out to you from what I just mentioned in my tier 1 or tier 2?
Well, first of all, if you have the number 1 pick in the draft, it should be a no-brainer. It has to be Christian McCaffrey. It's the easiest pick, and you should be thrilled that you have the number 1 pick. There's a separation there. Now, if you're in a standard league, in 2019, when McCaffrey was healthy, he finished with 355 points. Second place, 276. So there's about 79 point difference there. Which you go back 79 points. That's the same difference between the second place and 9th place running back in fantasy points. Now, if you're in a PPR, good Lord, did you get a gift if you got the number 1 pick? Because McCaffrey in 2019, PPR wise, had 471. Second most at running back position, 314.
Wild.
Like, that's insane. 314. So that separation from him to second place was, what are we talking? 71 plus 86. What is that? 168? 167?
Somewhere in that range.
The separation from that to where that falls from second to, you're looking at literally dropping down to like the 30th best running back. So in fantasy, Christian McCaffrey, listen, I know he was hurt last year. I know, but even if you look at just in the only games he played last year, he still averaged 24 in standard leagues, 24.5 points per game fantasy. And second was Dalvin Cook at 21. So he still led the league in fantasy points per game in the 3 games he did play last year. And he was actually, in his historic year, the year before, only averaging 22 points per game. So he's eclipsing that last year at 24.5. So Christian McCaffrey for me is not tier 1. He's tier whatever is above tier 1, because if you don't take Christian McCaffrey, I think you're insane if you have the number 1 pick. Now, after that, yeah, Dalvin Cook's going to be, Dalvin Cook's going to be a top 5 guy as long as he stays healthy. Derrick Henry hasn't, you worry about the wear and tear there. And listen, I just don't think there's any way he's going to put up the numbers he did last year when he ran for 2,000 yards. You just don't see that in back-to-back seasons. But he still should be like a top 10 guy. So taking him, number 3 running back overall in a standard league isn't terrible. Kamara, you talked about, he's going to catch a lot of passes. Barkley's a question mark. Ezekiel Elliott, with that offensive line back and Dak back, will hopefully get back to being, last year he was looked at as probably like a top 3 running back. Nick Chubb is a solid, he's going to finish in top 10, but not top 5 kind of guy. I like Jonathan Taylor actually a lot. Jonathan Taylor, as a rookie, blew up in the second half of last year. And, kind of after not doing much in the first half of the year, blew up in the second half. I actually saw a report today that Carson Wentz is on time to be back for week 1.
I did, yep.
Which would be crazy. We didn't expect that. But that sounds like he might be back for week 1, and that'll only help Jonathan Taylor in that run game. So I like Jonathan Taylor a lot. Austin Eckler is a guy that's not exciting, but will get you numbers. And if you're in a PPR, you're going to love him even more. Najee Harris is a guy, is the rookie I look for that has a lot of upside and should be the top rookie running back. I like him a lot.
So yeah, that's what I was actually
going to get the touches.
I was going to get into the tier 3 because this tier is going to be more of the guys that, maybe younger guys that could break out, or guys that maybe have had some decent seasons that could have another boost this season. So if you're in this tier 3 category, you're in. Keep in mind the size of your league matters too. So fantasy owners in a 12-team draft that doesn't get a running back from like maybe those top 2 tiers we just talked about, don't worry. This 3rd tier right here is your bread and butter. This is going to be where you'll find players coming off the board, usually in the set between the 2nd and 4th round, getting your running back 2. You could get a lot of value out of these guys. So when you're looking at, maybe even sandwiching in like a round 1 and round 3 running back, but then you slide in a stud wide receiver in the 2nd pick, this is kind of where you can get some value into this other area. And I wouldn't be shocked if any of these guys potentially finished in a top 5, like an Eckler, like you mentioned. So this list is my tier 3 that you could get a lot of value potentially. So I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the Chiefs, Austin Eckler, J.K. Dobbins with the Ravens, David Montgomery with the Bears, Joe Mixon is on this tier, Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift with the Lions, Najee Harris with the Steelers, Josh Jacobs with the Raiders, and Chris Carson with the Seahawks. So these are the next tier of players that could be between that round 2 and round 4 that you will be targeting, because they'll be coming off the board fairly quickly once that tier 1 and 2 are disappeared and you have nothing, to really look at from that standpoint. Edwards-Helaire, his goal line ability is kind of like where I think maybe he might not necessarily get as much, I would think. So maybe, you may hesitate with him. Sanders, slight durability concerns, so keep an eye out for that. Swift is unproven as a lead runner. So again, these guys could have big years, but you just there's little nuances with them. Najee Harris, O-line, is kind of a worry there, depending on how well that could hold up, but figures to be especially good in PPR leagues. Montgomery, Mixon, Carson will be solid across the board if they're healthy. That's the kind of caveat we have with those guys there. So ultimately, these guys all have similar overall outlooks depending on your format. It all depends, right? Though they'll be coming with various degrees of upside. You might get more value taking someone like Carson in the 3rd compared to like a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Dobbins in a mid-2nd round pick. So that's kind of where we're at with these 3rd tier. Now I'll let Scotty kind of pop in here. Mayday in chat, loved watching Zeke fumble. I don't know. He's gonna get that fixed. I bet you he does. But we're gonna get in the next tier sleepers and maybe committee running backs. But before I go to those, Scotty, what do you got with this group that I just kind of mentioned in this tier 3 value, second to fourth round?
Yeah, it's a solid, if not spectacular group, and you got to go with your gut on some of these, and who you think is going to take that next step or dominate. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was hyped beyond belief when the Chiefs took him last year. Probably underachieved a little bit based off he had a couple big games, but other than that, he kind of faded out a little and was injured. I think he'll step up this year, but they're going to give touches to. They added Jerick McKinnon, and they still have Darrell Williams, so those guys are going to take touches there. I do think Helaire will be more involved in the pass game, but I don't know. I'm still not convinced that he's. Well, I'm not convinced that he's just going to be the bell cow for them. Josh Jacobs, I like a lot. I don't know what the Raiders are doing. The Raiders literally, who did they added a running back in the offseason. I was like, you have Josh Jacobs, who you just took in the first round a couple years ago. Oh, yeah, they signed Kenyon Drake, who's a nice piece. I like Josh Jacobs. I talked about Najee Harris. I think he's a nice piece there, and he has some upside because I think he's going to get touches. And I think Pittsburgh means it when they are going to try and run the football. Doesn't mean they'll be successful, but I think they're going to try. J.K. Dobbins, we'll see. DeAndre Swift, Miles Sanders is kind of a guy that's kind of up and down. If he breaks along when he's good, if not, he's a little inconsistent and somewhat injury prone. So there's Montgomery isn't overly attractive, but he actually finished in standard league 6th overall among running backs in fantasy points last year. So what is he's going to be the guy in Chicago. You might wonder what that means in an offense, but he had over 1,000 rushing yards last year, had 54 catches for 438 yards. So he's going to get touches. So Montgomery's a guy people don't target because of that offense and that offense not believing in that offense, but he's a guy that's going to get touches. He got 247 attempts last year. That's a lot. And like I said, 68 targets of 54 catches. So Montgomery's a nice piece, especially, and if they put in Justin Fields at some point, hey, they're gonna be a little more exciting, and maybe he'll be able to take advantage of that as well.
Yeah. No, love this little group here. I think this is, again, where I'm going to be. I kind of keep an eye out for some of these different spots when it comes to taking guys, especially this group here in this little spot here. But the next tier I want to talk about is our tier 4, and that's more of the sleepers and the committee running backs. I've never been a sleeper guy. There's always that guy in your fantasy league that takes a guy. It's like he's gonna be good. He's a sleeper. Don't worry. I'm like, I've never believed in the sleepers, right? I've never really. It's such a hard thing to pinpoint on a guy that no one's really thinking about that's gonna blow up, and then even then you could still take him later on in your draft. But sleepers and committee running backs are gonna be falling in this category now. You should have at least one running back by the time these current names on this 4th tier are taken. Like, you should have something. If you don't, you're in trouble. Unless you're doing that 0 running back thing, right, Scotty? Unless you're doing that 0 running back strategy, you're probably looking at one of these guys as your number 1. I wouldn't recommend it. For me, it's a little risky. I wouldn't go this far without a running back. But you got to ask yourself, can you live with that? Now, these guys, these guys make up kind of that, boomer busts. Maybe these guys fill in for some flex positions. Maybe you can grab some of these guys with, a pick, and they can kind of be maybe a backup running back if you already have a couple running backs at this point. But they also are going to be putting out some decent, some decent production. You just don't know how they're going to pair with maybe their teammate, if it's a committee running back, or if it's, you know, something that they just haven't. It's an unknown, right? So I'm going to rattle off some names here. There's a long list, but these are all guys that are going to be falling in this category. Kareem Hunt with the Browns. Javonte Williams with the Broncos, along with his tandem, Melvin Gordon. So a lot of hype, at least in Denver, has been around Javonte Williams. I haven't heard a lot of him blowing up in camp quite as much as I would like to. However, people are high on him. A lot of people say that he could have been the best, one of the top running backs in the draft. But that's just, I don't know. It's an unknown, and it doesn't. Denver has been historically bad at letting you know who's going to get the ball more, and they split it up. It's hard. It's a headache, right? So that's what you're dealing with some of these. Again, that's the theme for this. Myles Gaskin with the Dolphins, Darrell Henderson with the Rams, Mike Davis with the Falcons, Damian Harris, Patriots, Raheem Mostert with the Niners, Travis Etienne, Mayday's boy, with the Jags. Don't know what you're getting necessarily. Chase Edmonds, Cardinals, Devin Singletary with the Bills, Gus Edwards with the Ravens. Let's see, Philip Lindsay with the Texans, but he's sharing with David Johnson. That's a committee. Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette are both in Tampa Bay. It's a committee. And then also James Robinson with the Jags is splitting with ETN, and then James Conner with the Cardinals. So, again, you got guys here that it's a little bit of you looking into a crystal ball and trying to feel them out, right? You don't know how this is going to play out. You'll have to definitely see how camp plays out, keeping your eye on maybe who's getting more carries out of the two on each of these teams. But, you know, this is also lends itself to something that I have always struggled with, guys, and that's handcuffing. Handcuffing is something that you do when, you know, you have like a starting running back and then, you know, maybe he gets injured, and, you know, like a David Johnson is kind of one of those historically gets injured. So then having Philip Lindsay as his backup is value, right? In Houston, because, you know, if David Johnson goes down, and he always does, Philip Lindsay can come on and get you all the carries, and he can take over and eat more than anybody else on that team. So I've always struggled with, you know, those types of situations. But Scotty, with all these names, all these, how do you handle running back by committees? Who do you think kind of stands out in these running back by committees? How do you look at handcuffing those types of players on rosters?
Yeah, you hope you do your research and get a feel for these perceived running back by committees, and maybe they're not so much a running back by committee. Like, at this point, it's all about touches. Hoping these guys get enough touches to make it worthwhile for you. You know, obviously, like a Kareem Hunt, he's not going to get more touches than Nick Chubb, but he is the pass catcher in that, and he gets some goal line stuff, so he'll score. So while he's in a committee, he's still, you know, a viable option in fantasy football. But with these guys, some of the names I would target, Darrell Henderson should be the starter in for the Rams in LA. Yep. So I think he'll get a lot of touches there. Who else do I like here? Travis Etienne and James Robinson drive me nuts. First of all, I'm mad that the Jacksonville Jaguars took Travis Etienne, because James Robinson put up like a monster year as a rookie last year. It's just bizarre. He ran for over 1,100 yards, caught a ton of balls as an undrafted rookie, and then they go and take Travis Etienne. So I think Etienne has some upside based off of, like, you look at James Robinson, an undrafted guy. Maybe the ability to run there in Jacksonville is just open, and Travis Etienne has more skill and talent than James Robinson. So he might be a piece. A guy I like maybe the most of all of these is actually Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon right now in camp is the clear number one from reports I've read in Denver. He's the number one, and it's not close. Like Javonte Williams is clearly not getting number one reps right now. And you have a guy in Melvin Gordon that's getting those number one reps. And even with Philip Lindsay on the roster last year, Melvin Gordon in standard leagues finished 13th. among all running backs in fantasy points last year, and he only played. He sat out one game, which is not crazy. Like a lot of running backs sat out a game or two. So a guy who's probably definitely getting touches and gonna be at least to start the year the clear starter in Denver, which a lot of these other guys you can't guarantee. I think people just look at the Broncos traded up for this running back in the second round, but in camp it hasn't been that way. Like Melvin Gordon, this is probably his last year in Denver, but to start the season at least, he's gonna get touches and he's gonna get it. And if he can continue to produce, like those touches aren't gonna go away. So I like Melvin Gordon a lot as a sleeper.
Yeah. If you pick right when it comes to these running back by committees, I feel like you could get some really good value out of some of these guys if you don't even have. Maybe you took a lot of wide receivers and maybe took a quarterback in the 4th round or something along those lines. This is what you're looking at. So, obviously it's important to just keep an eye on how the camps are rolling through, especially, watching some preseason football. I mean, as I know it sounds awful to like watch second stringers and third stringers, but you might get some flashes from some of these guys that might, have them climbing up your boards a little bit. So, there's a couple here. Again, Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette in Tampa Bay. Devin Singletary and Zach Moss in Buffalo. You have, there's just a lot of these. Myles Gaskin, Dolphins. He seems to be one that might be getting you just don't know what you're necessarily getting production-wise and with that offense. Keep in mind, teams that, and I don't know if there's even a statistic around this, but dysfunctional teams and bad teams, keep an eye on those guys, because if you're playing from behind all the time, if you're like a New York Jets, Michael Carter, if let's say the Jets are behind, are they running the football? They're not. So, use your analytical thinking in that. So if teams that are going to be scoring a ton, maybe getting hot, like great receiver core, projected to score a lot of points, maybe they get up in these games and they use their running backs a little bit more often throughout the course of the game to kind of just eat out the game a little bit and, kind of run some clock. So keep an eye on, how we talked about win totals. Successful teams are going to be running the ball better, are going to be throwing the ball better. So keep an eye on those tandems because, those are the teams that are going to really start gravitating towards the top when it comes to production, when it comes to the running backs. I kind of hesitate with like Las Vegas Raiders. They're dysfunctional. Are they going to win a lot of games? No. So are they going to be behind in games? Yes. Are they going to run the ball a lot? Probably not if they're behind in games. So just think through that a little bit. Make sure that you're understanding the success rates of some of these teams. All right. And then let's get into this last tier, and then we want to wrap things up. So we have tiers 5, tier 6. These are all of your best handcuffs that are like, guys that you're getting to the bottom of the barrel, guys that might be able to come in and maybe fill in for you on a bye week. Not excited about them, but necessarily aren't exactly the worst players out there. So in this, you have Latavius Murray with the Saints, Jamal Williams with the Lions, Nyheim Hines with the Colts, A.J. Dillon, Packers, Tony Pollard, Cowboys, J.D. McKissick, Washington, Trey Sermon, the 49ers, James White, the Patriots, who you talk about PPR leagues, you want to talk about getting some points. James White got you some points last year when it came to injuries in the backfield and then catching balls out of the backfield as well. He got a few receiving touchdowns, and he carried some fantasy teams last season. Alexander Mattison in Minnesota, Tevin Coleman with the Jets, Justin Jackson with the Chargers. I could go deeper, but I don't think it matters at this point. At that point, it's taking the best available. You got Darrell Williams down here with the Chiefs. Could be something. Who knows? Because the Chiefs obviously use a lot of weapons in their offense, so he could have some flashes potentially. But here's where, it's getting towards the bottom. If you're in a 12-team league, this is where it gets a little bit rocky. First thing to note here, like Hines, McKissick, Cohen, White, all bump up their tier in fantasy PPR leagues. So keep that in mind, as I mentioned. They use a lot of their running backs in the passing game. So just keep an eye on that. Other than that, anything else you want to add here when it comes to some of these guys?
Yeah, most of these guys, you're just taking and hoping. You're hoping for an injury. I won't say that often, but that's what you're doing. You're hoping the guy in front of them gets hurt. It gives them more of an opportunity to get the touches, because right now they're backups, and without those starters getting hurt, I just don't see the potential there. So yeah, it's basically just a lottery at this point. Taking a guy that you hope maybe the starter, maybe a team that's gonna be prolific at the running back position, regardless of who it is. And if the starter goes out, this guy's gonna fill in and get touches and be prolific, and not necessarily a guy where like maybe they abandon it if it's him, sort of thing. Who that is, I don't know. Like, it can be all across the board, but a lot of these guys can make it happen if they need to, but they're not going to get touches right off the bat. So you might take one of these guys and hold on to them, and I would just be diligent. If obviously there's different rules to every fantasy league, but looking at that waiver wire, and the instant you see a running back go down with an injury, dive in on that backup if he's available, and make sure you're in on that, where at least if you make the claim for him, even if you're not the top claim for him based off the waiver wire, you did everything you could. So that happens a lot at the running back position, far more than any. Actually, that's like the only prominent position that it occurs in is running back replacements. So just be diligent with that and make sure you're looking out for it. But none of these guys are going to be guys you're looking to start with on the outside of the league until they're the guy in front of them gets hurt.
Yeah. No, honestly, running backs are tougher to find these days. We mentioned at the top of the start of this little segment here that, you want to, I'm terrified of those zero running back trends, but Scotty, you mentioned you had just the secret of the year when it came to positions. You mentioned it wasn't quarterback position. It wasn't, so that we're clear here. Does it fall within the running back side of things, or are we still waiting for your fantasy football tip of the year?
We're still waiting. It's not at the running back spot. I think people have a good feel for the running back spot and where you need to address it, and you got to address it early somewhat. So it's not running back spot. We're going to keep on waiting.
So that means we need you guys. Scotty has this tip of the year. If you want to win your fantasy football, he's got some very specific instructions for you, and it has to do with a particular position. And so we are going to be covering position groups still every show leading up to the NFL season to make sure you have everything you need when it comes to the knowledge to draft your fantasy football team and get you those wins, get to that cash in your pocket or bragging rights or whatever you have at stake in your fantasy football. If you have a family league and you just want to, talk some shit to your father-in-law or mother-in-law because they're just always on your nerves, and you just have to get in there and just really just take something away from them. And fantasy football is where you're at. I got really deep into there, by the way.
It was like, it seems like, is that something that you've related with?
No,
I knowledge, but it felt real right there.
I feel like the in-laws are fine, but there's other people that you never know, right? So if
nothing else, we're gonna prevent them from finishing last. And what you hear about is the guys who finish last
get tattoos
and what they have to do. So what we will do is we will guarantee if you watch this show and follow our advice in your draft, you will not finish last.
Hey, that's
congratulations.
And that's a guarantee. That's a guarantee right there. We will make sure that you won't finish last and be embarrassed in your friend group.
I've played in a lot of fantasy leagues. Never finished last, so just follow us.
I feel like it's hard to finish last. Now we probably have some people watching. They're like, I finish last every year, and it's like, if that's you, we're gonna step up your game this year. So position group coming up next. I don't know, what are we covering next? We haven't decided on our Sunday show what we're gonna be.
Natural fit with wide receiver next.
Okay, wide receiver. I think so. Right now we've covered quarterback and strategy. If you missed that, go back to our YouTube channel or go to our VODs on Twitch. So you'll be able to. All of our videos, all of our live streams are uploaded to YouTube. So if you missed out on the quarterback and you want to figure out who the best quarterback is and the tips that we said, because there were some important key aspects of how to draft quarterbacks that we mentioned. So go to our YouTube channel, check it out, Action Lab on YouTube, and you might have to search for it a little bit. It's kind of buried, but if you go to channels and search it, it should pop right up, and we'll cover all of that information on that video. But we're going to keep going. We got to make sure you guys know what's up. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this. We're having a lot of fun doing this, and it makes it so you're more knowledgeable when you come to NFL season. Is going to be that much stronger. You're going to get into the games more. It makes it more entertaining. So we're having a blast with it. Diacol in chat, losing to a family member is the worst because they will let you know all season. Sucks. Yeah, no, 100%. I know a lot of people who do their fantasy football leagues with their family, and it gets kind of dicey sometimes. I mean, I have to hear it from Scotty here with the Chiefs, and that doesn't have.
I would argue losing to me would be the worst.
Because
I will let you know about it.
It's not the best, man. I'll tell you that right now. You just have to oh man, it's rough. But
I'll just remind you, casually or not casually, I don't know. Depends on the day.
Again, hit us up on YouTube. I mean, that's where all our library is going to be. So we'll maybe cut this up and maybe put it into some other TikToks and some different things as well. So keep an eye out for that. If you're not following all of the different fantasy platforms that we are on, make sure you're hitting those up. So you're not missing any content. But no more fantasy with extended fam. Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm going to get back into it this year. I was off fantasy football last year with all the COVID stuff. It was tough. Didn't really get into it, but this year is a different year. I'm going to have a solid team. I feel it. So, and I'm going to follow some of our strategies we just went over, Scotty. I think we're going to be successful. I think we're going to have a good draft. If you have questions pertaining to the running back position, throw them in the chat. Let us know, or save them for next time. Let's say you don't have them now. But we appreciate all of you guys for stopping by for all of our fantasy football draft strategy and rankings. If you're here and you're loving the content, hit that follow button. We are halfway to our goal tonight, and we need one more to get our goal of 2 followers. Fragility already followed early on in the stream, so thank you so much. And then I want to also give a big shout out to everyone who participated in the stream tonight. So Mayday popping in. We don't see him very often anymore as much as we used to, but we love you, Mayday. Thank you for joining in and participating. Gold Glover, appreciate it, popping in as well, throwing out some of the chat. Diacola in the chat. All of you guys we love all of you guys, seeing your familiar faces, so to speak. And, it's great to get to know you guys even more and more as, we get further on in the show and get more, more fun stuff happening. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate all of you so, so much. Love each and every one of you. But we are back here on Sunday. Sunday is the day where we will be covering wide receivers and everything you need to know about who to draft. Because honestly, Scotty, wide receivers will make or break your season. They could.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge, huge piece of the puzzle nowadays with the NFL. Teams are throwing the ball more than ever. Wide receivers have more upside and a higher ceiling than they've ever had. So you're definitely going to want to be here to know who are the guys that I need to draft on my fantasy team. On Sunday, we will make sure you know everything you need to know. So come back here. We're going to be going live on 7:30 Mountain Time, 9:30 Eastern Time. So just mark your calendars, hit that follow button so you can get those notifications on when we go live. And we're going to cover all the aspects of wide receiver rankings and tiers and who to draft. Man, we have so much, Scotty. We didn't even get to the rundown because obviously it's not busy sports time, but we still had a packed show. I mean, we don't even.
Once NFL comes back, that's all you need sometimes, And it's not even back yet. We're just previewing everything.
Oh man,
wait till it starts, man.
Yeah, no, we're definitely
September 9th. I cannot wait. NFL action. We'll get some college before that, and I need to dive in for the benefit of this show and for us. Like, I need to dive in a little bit more to college. Unfortunately, when I had kids, best thing ever, I had to make a choice. I couldn't give up my Saturdays and Sundays.
You made a good choice. You made a good choice.
I had to give up my Saturdays. And somewhat Sundays at times, but I chose NFL. So hopefully now I'll be able to. I'm trying to get my 4-year-old. I think he's gonna be into football this year for the first time.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
I know. I think I'm gonna explain it to him. We're gonna get on it because, like, listen, we talked about it, I think on another show. Like I showed him the movie Space Jam, and now he's like, "Dad, let's go dribble. Let's go shoot. Dad, when are you getting me a basketball hoop? Dad, when?" Like. All this stuff. So I just got to get him involved with it, and then he'll be ready to go, and he'll be cheering the Chiefs on with me and be excited as could be.
And not to mention college football season, we have a pretty good knowledge base with Brandon, who subbed in. So maybe we bring in Brandon to give us some insights into college football and all the things that he just studies. He's a big CU Buff guy. He obviously went there. He's all about the CU Buffaloes, but he knows college football better than probably both of us when it comes to all the different inner workings and the backgrounds and all the divisions. And so he's going to definitely be on the show a little bit more as we get it closer into college football season. He might be our college football expert. We might have a specialist on this show, Scotty.
Yeah. I'm not a specialist because I'm just a jack of all trades, obviously. No.
I mean,
that'd be great. Let's throw him on here.
I mean, you hold down the NFL quite a bit. I can rock some NBA side of things, and then we have little college football from Brandon coming in once in a while and giving us some knowledge. Either way, guys, if you're here watching, you're going to get all the best information top to bottom on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook Live. You're not going to get anything better anywhere else. So hit that follow button. We're one away. I would love to see it, but otherwise, I hope you guys have a fantastic evening. The rest of the week is all downhill from here, and we will be seeing you back in the lab on Sunday night with a action-packed show. Could be our best show ever. This was probably our best show ever tonight, but that will be insane. So, love all you guys. Have a great night, great rest of your week, and we will see you this weekend.
Good night, guys.